Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Delta Airlines Flight 2998, bound for Atlanta, Georgia, with continued service to Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. All carry-on items should now be stowed securely, either in an overhead bin or under the seat in front of you.
This happened around 10 years ago, when I was around the age of 7. My family's always been one to travel a lot, and therefore, even though I was only 7, I had flown in an airplane more times than I could count. Along with this, I had also become very familiar with our local airport and its layout. This time specifically, we had shown up to our gate around 2 hours early. I remember waiting for around half that time when I had to use the bathroom. I told my parents this, and them obviously knowing I knew the layout of the airport, or at least enough to get to the bathroom, they let me go alone. And so I did. I made the 5-minute walk to the main bathrooms, which should be noted were actually the only bathrooms I knew of. It was around 3 a.m. at the time, and I guess that's when the bathrooms get cleaned, as they were completely roped off, which signified they were closed. I, again being 7 and not the best decision maker, proceeded to aimlessly walk around parts of the airport I was unfamiliar with to find another bathroom that I could use. And this led me to a hallway, which was sort of sectioned off from the rest of the airport. I thought I saw a bathroom sign near the end of it, and so I proceeded to walk down it. But when I was maybe halfway down the hallway, I clearly saw a head peek around a corner. It was a man. I instinctively stopped in my tracks. Hey kid. Come over here. Without even giving it a second thought, I continued walking down the hallway, now towards this man. I honestly at the time just thought it was an employee, and that he was going to direct me to a bathroom I could use. But no, the man explained how he was lost and needed me to follow him so that I could help him find the right gate for his plane. At the time, I not only trusted and believed him, but I was actually excited at the thought of helping this man. Like I said before, I was familiar with a good portion of the airport, and I guess the thought of being able to help an adult made me feel special. I responded saying I would help him, but that I wanted to let my parents know what I was doing real fast. Not even as a precaution, I was literally just excited and wanted to tell them. I told the guy I'd be right back. As I turned around and started back towards my gate, the guy began yelling at me and told me that we didn't have enough time as his plane was about to leave. But I responded telling him I would be quick. Shortly after exiting the hallway, I looked back and saw the man practically running out of the hallway and down the stairs that ultimately led to the airport's exit. I figured that was that. I thought it was weird, but I never brought it up to my parents, and after finding a bathroom I could actually use, I practically forgot about the whole thing. Fast forward to a couple years ago, and some coworkers and I were talking about weird stuff that we experienced as kids, and that memory just suddenly came back to me. Being a lot older, it only took a second to connect the dots and realize what actually almost went down. It was a really disturbing feeling to only realize how much danger I was in years later. In retrospect, I definitely should have told my parents about it right after it happened, but I just hope the dude didn't try it on any other vulnerable kids like me. I'm a college student, and obviously with all my money going towards school, pretty much any amount of extra cash helps. And because of this, mid-semester I decided to pick up a part-time job as a ramp agent at my local airport. Basically what this means is I'm the guy responsible for loading and unloading your airplane baggage. Now, every once in a while we have dead bodies transported in cargo bins, and this night was one of those occasions. On top of that, it was raining. Not just lightly raining, but pouring rain with decently close lightning. And of course, my manager assigned me to be throwing this plane. Basically all throwing means is that I was the one that had to pull all the cargo out of the storage bin of the plane. I was already tired from school earlier that day, but it was the last plane for the night, and all things considered, there wasn't too much cargo to unload. My coworker Dave pulled the ramp to the plane, and raised it up so I could walk up the conveyor belt to enter the storage bin. I climbed into the small and cramped space, and made sure to sit as far away as I could from the white cardboard box carrying the dead body. I was the only one up there, and I tried to be quick, because honestly I was just trying to go home and go to sleep. Although, there wasn't really much I could do to speed things up. The conveyor belt we use moves insanely slow, so as to give the guys on the floor time to scan each individual package. I was setting down packages for maybe 5 minutes, when I realized the lightning was not only becoming more frequent, but was also seemingly right on top of us. I had my earbuds in, and was trying to just ignore it, but that's when I heard the loudest crash that had ever filled my ears. It was lightning, but so close that I literally fell to the ground. Almost immediately, I instinctively looked up, And that's when I saw the most haunting sight I had ever seen. Down near the end of the storage bin of the plane, in the darkness, I could see the lid to the cargo bin with the dead body fly off. It was now sitting upright. The body quite literally went from laying down to an upright position so forcefully that the lid had flown off. In a full-on panic at this point, I ran as fast as I could down the ramp. All the while, my coworkers were screaming at me that the plane had just been hit by lightning. We went inside, and after I caught my breath, I explained to them what I had just witnessed in the storage bin of the plane. I will never forget how quickly the color on their faces disappeared, followed by looks of pure horror. After maybe 5 minutes of discussing the situation, and hearing the fear in my voice, my manager ultimately decided it was best if I just went home. During the whole duration of my drive home, I was stuck in a state of shock. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know if what I saw was real or not. But shortly after I got home, at least part of what I saw was confirmed real, as one of my coworkers had texted me, and he explained how when he went back up into the storage bin, the lid to the cargo bin with the dead body was off, but that the dead body itself wasn't sitting up. I did some research on whether or not a lightning strike could give off enough energy to cause a dead body's muscles to tense up enough for it to physically sit up for a few seconds, but I couldn't find any results on this. So, to this day, I still have no idea whether what I saw could be explained by the lightning, a trick my mind was playing on me because of fatigue, or something else altogether. But either way, I would quit my job at the airport the very next morning. I honestly couldn't see the money as being worth it anymore at that point. The trauma I had experienced was far more than the money was worth.
The fall semester of my junior year of university was spent studying abroad with my best friend in Florence. We had a blast exploring the city, checking out timeless works of art, partying every night, making new friends, and traveling the country. Before we knew it, 4 months had gone by and we were on the way to the airport for our flight home. The night before saw a huge snowstorm, something that is rare for Italy. The white-covered city sparkled divinely as we drove through, and I remember feeling incredibly bummed to be going home. Even though it was 5 days before Christmas and I missed my family, I wanted nothing more than to stay in Florence forever. That feeling lasted all of 20 minutes. The airport was complete chaos, and upon entering we discovered that our flight had been canceled. Cue the waterworks from my friend for the duration of roughly 13 hours. Yes, 7 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. We spent in line to try to get on another flight. Finally, we were given tickets for a new flight, but that flight was leaving from Rome in 3 days. Since we handed in our keys to our apartment and all of our other friends had flown home the day before, we were completely stranded. My friend was a complete wreck at this point, terrified at the idea that we might not make it back for Christmas, and was really no help in deciding what we should do. So, I decided the best course of action would be to hop on a train to Rome and spend the next couple of nights in the airport. After 7 exhausting hours on the train, we finally made it into the Rome airport and tried to find a corner to claim and bed down in for the coming 2 nights. We found a small area between a handicap ramp and the wall. The railing for the ramp created a sort of barrier, and it made a nice, seemingly safe nook for us to squeeze ourselves into. Exhausted, we pushed our luggage into the back of the nook and lay our backs against them. After making sure my friend was okay, I covered myself with my jacket and promptly fell asleep. I awoke to the feeling of a tug on my foot, and thinking that someone had accidentally kicked my shoe while passing by, I shrugged it off and snuggled deeper into my jacket. Not 3 seconds later, I hear a man whisper, "American, American." I felt the tug on my foot again. I jump to my feet and see my best friend with her jacket on and her luggage by her side standing next to a very handsome Italian man. He had salt and pepper hair and was wearing a dark suit with a champagne-colored tie. His mouth formed a dazzling smile, but his eyes weren't smiling with it. I looked at my friend quizzically, trying to figure out what was going on and why she was standing with him. Looking back at him, I noticed that he was glancing to his sides and at the guard near the exit about 40 feet from where we were standing. His behavior immediately set off alarms in my head, and I grabbed my friend's arm to pull her back away from him. He grabbed her other arm and started talking very fast, saying that he worked for the airport and the flights out of Rome were all going to be canceled shortly, that he had a car and he could drive us to Naples and we could get a flight out of there. He said that my American friend had agreed to come with him and that I should too. American, it is safe with me. I glared at my friend and told him in Italian that we were not interested in his offer and that we would wait for our flight. With my hand still firmly gripping my friend's arm, I grabbed my stuff and made a walk away from the creep. He immediately moved into my way, blocking us into the nook, his eyes with no semblance of humanity fixed onto mine as he said, American, you are coming with me. Being cornered is a strange feeling, and prior to this instance it had never happened to me before. My reaction was immediate and it felt raw, animalistic. Full of rage, or terror, or both, I lunged at this man, shoving both of my fists into his stomach. It definitely surprised him and definitely knocked the wind out of him because his knees buckled and he toppled to the floor, bringing my friend down with him. As soon as they hit the ground, my friend began screaming, and the man scrambled to get up and away from us, but not before the security guard by the door got to him. In my adrenaline-filled state, I began repeating, He's trying to take us! He's trying to take us! As the security guard knelt on the guy's back, keeping him there until other guards could assist him. When the man was secured, they left him off of the ground to bring him to what I assume was the detainment room of the airport. As they lifted him, he looked directly at me with his empty eyes and fake smiled and whispered, See you soon, American. As soon as he was out of my sight, I broke down sobbing. I was so exhausted and terrified and incredibly angry at the fact that my friend had agreed to go with this man, that she had thought it was a good plan to get into a car with this person that she had never met, and that she had put us in an extremely dangerous situation. When I confronted her about it, her only excuse was that she wanted to make it home in time for Christmas. If she had gone with him, I don't think she would have ever made it home for another Christmas.